Shalom from Israel, I'm Ariel Ben Aram. This week we read Parshat Korach. We have seen a series of events that have been happening in the last portions of the Torah that we have studied in the previous weeks. And again, we have to emphasize that this book of Numbers, Bamidbar in the desert, has to do with our relationship with God. So we have to pay close attention because at one point we may say, well, God is telling Moses is telling Israel, and this is the kind of relationship that we have with God. Good point. We have said many times in the blog, this is one of the pivotal messages that we want to communicate here, is that every place, name, character, situation in the Torah as well as in the rest of the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, has a meaning, not just a meaning but a resonance, an echo in our consciousness, meaning that we as Jews, we know that the Torah is within us, we are part of it, the Torah is part of us. We are in the Torah, therefore the Torah is also in us, within us. And in this case, when we say within us, we're talking about within our consciousness, within who we are. Now, consciousness means to be conscious of. That's basically the translation. So if we are not conscious about that, we are not aware about this, then we have to make ourselves conscious. So we have to, when we follow the commandment to study Torah every day, this is what we're talking about here. This is about a self-awareness. This is about acquiring a knowledge in terms of consciousness, not in terms of information. It's like, I'm going to read this story, or this interesting story, what the Torah is telling us. Not really, not quite. Indeed, there is a story. But this is not about the story. It's about what this that is said in the Torah, either be a story or not, has to do with us. So we have to make ourselves aware of what's going on here. So when we say that Moses is the middleman, so to speak, and Aaron also is another middleman, another intermediary between Israel and God, we're talking about this quality in consciousness that those saw, meaning that is Moses is the intermediary. Who is Moses in our consciousness? And we have to translate all these things. That's what we're trying to communicate in this blog, God's Love, and in these videos that we do, related to the same subject. Who is Moses? Let's find out who Moses is. Yeah, Moses is our highest knowledge of God. That's what he means. He's the one who speaks with God mouth to mouth, that the Torah tells us literally, mouth to mouth. That there is no intermediaries. That it is nothing between God and Moses. So the communication is clear, flows. Now, what is the quality of Moses that the Torah is repeating us over, and actually twice in the Torah? The humblest man that ever existed. So let's imagine for a moment, how could this man be that is the humblest man who ever existed? So what humility means, what humbleness means, to have to find out about that. That's the main quality of Moses. It's like, what is that quality within us? What is this humbleness that we need in order to have free access, mouth to mouth with God? Because that's the key then, being humble. Now, what does it mean that in the context of the Torah? Because for some people, humbleness means something. We're not going to get into the definitions of what other people rather or their ideologies define as humbleness vis-a-vis or in contrast to what the Torah, what the Hebrew Bible, what the Jewish tradition is telling us about the meaning of being humble. So then we're gonna step into a field, a realm, which is actually pretty alien to us when we talk about humbleness. It's like, how could you say that humbleness is something alien to us? Let's basically be honest with each other. Nobody's humble. So when the Torah is telling that Moses was the only man who was really humble, that's a reason to say that. The Torah has Beshalom, doesn't lie. So why the Torah is telling us that only this man was humble? There was no other man like him. Ever. So then we're talking about a quality that is not really part of us. You know, it's not. I mean, it's like, it may be, because Moses had it. He achieved that level. So that the lesson here is that, you know, we may do that too. Why not? Yeah, he did it. Actually, we're not saying that this is an exclusive quality of Moses, because the Torah is telling us that he was the humblest man on earth, whoever lived on earth. He's telling us something. The Torah is telling us, God is telling us something when he's saying that this is my man, this is my servant, the servant that I trust the most in my house. He's trusted in my house. I can't do anything, I can't leave anything for him. I trust him. He's not going to betray his house, his master. Now, who's the master here? Who's the house? It's God. We're talking about a quality that is directly related to God. It's not related to any other person. It's not related to a nation. It's not related to an ideology. It's not even related to a belief. It is related to God. That's what humbleness is about, being related to God. It's like a prerequisite. Then, our sages in the Talmud, I think that is Masehet, the tractate of Sotah, I think. He said somewhere there, and we have quoted that many times in our blog and probably in these videos. It's like God doesn't sit with, literally sit, it doesn't sit with the haughty person, the person who is arrogant. Okay, why? Because the person is full of himself. So it's not that God doesn't want to sit with him. It's like the guy doesn't leave space for God, because he's full of himself. Then we have a problem here. It's like, what do I have to get rid of in my measure? Suppose that I'm a glass, you know, that I'm full, I'm filling that glass with myself. Okay. Then God comes and he said, hey, I want to be in your glass. Could you make me a space there? He say, no, God, I'm sorry, I'm full of myself. This is only me here. Now that glass is called consciousness, as we said before. It's like, what is in our consciousness that we feel in? We have said also many times, in the Hasidic mystic tradition, they call all levels of consciousness, we're talking about discernment, thought, mind, emotions, feelings, passions, and instincts, and all those vessels. Those vessels are empty. They are. You say the vessels, the empty vessels, waiting to be filled with what the person puts in them. So it's like the mind is basically an empty place, an empty vessel. Then you put in the mind what you put in the mind. Same goes with discernment. You start discerning about something. What is that something that you put in your intellect, that you intellectualize about or discern about? What is that thing that you put in your emotions that make you feel in a particular way? How about the passions, the intensity with which you do things in life? What is that you put in that? And what about those instincts? What about that make us do things regardless, without permission? Yeah, we do them. Yes, we eat. We mate. We have to. So we have to eat. We have to respond to a basic nature, the human nature. And the point is like, how do we orient those instincts? That's the whole point. So that's what we bless when we eat. So we have to bless what we eat. Eating is just an instinctual thing. It has a meaning. Yeah, it's about nurturing and surviving. Yes, it is. But again, we have to bless that survival. We have to accompany that action, that instinct, with kedusha, with sacredness. Because we come from something sacred, that is God. And then when we mate, we do the same. And like, there's a reason, this is a need to mate, yes. We have to orient that instinct, as some people call them, for goodness, for something sacred. We have said in all the commentaries that the sacredness that we're talking about is about goodness. It's about being good in the process. And infuse a positive attitude, a positive feeling, a positive emotion, a positive thought, a positive belief in what we do. Then, these are empty vessels that we have to fill in. Then we have to be aware of what we put in those vessels. And by the way, ego is part of our consciousness. Therefore, ego also is a vessel that has to be filled. I'll say just compare, mentioned this many times, these principles are pivotal, they're essential, they're fundamentally what we try to communicate here beyond what is already been said. So, they said also in the Talmud that the ego is like actually, not in the Talmud, the Hasidic masters. They say that that ego is a wild bull. A wild bull. It's like you don't want to get close to that animal. Okay, so they say if someone leaves a wild bull at large in a field, he will destroy the field. Meaning that if you planted something there, corn for instance, wheat, the wild bull comes down destroying it. Now, it's not that a wild bull nature is to destroy. It's like he behaves in a way in which anything that is around him or it is like under his dominion. It's like whatever it is here, I do whatever I want. Therefore, I go and I destroy this field. I do whatever I want. I just break it. I eat it. I don't care who belongs to or what belongs to here. I do whatever I want. That's my nature. It speaks ego. Then also you say the bull has two potentials, the potential to destroy and the potential to build. So how come that a wild animal has the potential to build? And it's like, it's useless, even dangerous. Yeah. It would be productive if you put a yoke on it, on his head, horns. Then he can help build the field again. You give him a sense of direction. Just go this way, straight. We have to plow the field of life in order to plant the seed of goodness, the seeds of goodness, in order to harvest goodness. And we do that with the strength of our determination, our driving force, our wild nature called ego. That's what it's all about. Now, translating all these images of all these metaphors that we have been presenting here, the idea is that ego and all vessels of consciousness, that we mentioned before, have to be filled with goodness. Yeah. So goodness is the cause, goodness will be the effect. That's the way it works. That's how the names Elohim and Hashem are one. When the Elohim meaning reflected in the Torah is cause and effect, it's like God put creation in motion. Creation works in a particular way, cause and effect. We see that everywhere. That's the way life works. Okay? So then based on that, we have to put goodness in cause and effect. So it's like these two, these are part of one. There's no separation in the names of God. It's one. So it's like there's a cause and effect, and the cause and effect is goodness. So we have to pursue that as one. So we have like a vehicle, a way to manifest our lives, and then we have the conductor of that vehicle. That's goodness. So in this case, the conductor, the driver, and the driven vehicle are one. That's the oneness. It's a oneness with purpose. It's not a oneness that is there is cause and effect by, and then we have a beautiful world, but that's it. I mean, there's a purpose between that. It's like you every time that you make a choice, that's cause and effect. Emotion. It's like, I'm going to make a choice. That choice will be a cause. It's going to cause an effect. It's going to have an effect. Then we see that the intention, the cause, is actually what is driving the result as part of the cause. So it's like, you see that the result is part exactly of the cause. It's the same. Yeah. It's like you did something wrong, you did something with a bad attitude, for instance. The result was negative. So it's the result and the cause are the same, actually. They are. You say, yeah, but the consequences were greater, bigger than the cause. Say, yeah, it may be so, yes. Sometimes we say things and do things that we really don't know the effect, the consequences of what we say. We have no idea. And then when it comes back to us, it's like, hey, hello, this is what you did. It's like, what? I didn't do it. Yes, you did. And then we have to figure it out, like, what is that powerful thing that I put in motion that created all this damage? Was it really simple what I put in that is not compared, not measurable with the effect? Not quite. It's the same. So how could be the same? I didn't do it with this. Yeah, you did. Because as long as you put something negative in your intention, the effect is going to be negative also, regardless of the proportion of negativity that you will cause. Yeah, but I put this little piece of evil, and look at what I have done. Any evil is good enough. It's enough already. Really. Now, what some people don't understand is about the gray that we emphasize. The Torah presents the information telling us, ladies and gentlemen, this is black and white. There is no gray here. It's either or. He divided, God, between day and night, dark and light. And He separated between day and night. We say that every day in our prayers. There's a separation. There's nowhere that says that He mixed. It's all the way around. He put light against darkness and darkness against light. It's like He clashed them together. It's like to make the point that they're different. It's like either one becomes the other or the other becomes the first one. Either one. But there's no combination. There's no gray at the end. It doesn't say that anywhere. Read it. It won't say that. So then we have to be careful about this little thing and this little lie, this innocent lie, because we don't know the effect that it's going to cause. We don't know. And again, it's contextual, of course. So when I said a little lie to my kid so he couldn't do this or he may go to sleep faster, we're not talking about those. You know exactly what we're talking about here. Like we know that actually we are aware of the consequences of our words and our actions. We know that. We know if I tell this person, they think he's going to react that way, he or she. We know. So I better don't tell. We know, we're aware, we learn. It's a very empirical process. This is not about anything magical. So we learn by experience. We know that I would do this. I am sure this is going to be the effect. Or even greater, even worse. Or the minimum would be this. We know. So we have to be careful about that. So in this case, goodness, like the prerequisite of goodness, of filling these vessels of goodness, is not allowing anything negative. What would be negative in this case? A negative quality, a negative trait. What are the negative traits that we always mention in our blog and in our commentaries here? Envy, lust, cruelty, indifference, indolence, greed, coveting. The 7 nations that we have to conquest in order to possess the promised land, the land of God, the land of goodness, the land that flows with milk and honey. It is goodness then. So what is the prerequisite of goodness? We have to be humble. We have to separate everything negative, potentially negative, any negative trend in consciousness, and fill it with goodness. How we do that? Being humble. It's like we are humble when we are not envy. We are humble when we are generous. We're humble when we have solidarity with others. We're humble when we care. Why? Because we don't put ourselves first. We leave ourselves, I'm going to have that person. I know that I have a meeting, but this person needs help. I put them first because they need goodness in order to overcome the problem that they have. So then that's the mitzvah. That's the good thing that I have to do. And that's my connection with God. So, all this preamble about humbleness, about who Moses is in the context of Parshat Korach. So who was Korach? Let's read. Korach, son of Itzhar, son of Kohat, son of Levi. So sages say, why, if we were talking about his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, why didn't talk about the great-great-great-grandfather, by the way, named Jacob? Israel. There are sages quote the oral tradition, the Midrash, that says that Jacob Avinu, Israel, our father, he had prophecy and he saw what was going to happen with this guy Korach. And he prayed to God, he said, don't associate my name to that guy. Yeah, he's my descendant, of course. I don't want to deny that. But don't relate to me. Don't relate him to me. Then the Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu heard his praise, okay, in the Torah, that's not going to happen. It's going to be up to Levi. It will not be associated to you. Well, how we say, the guy still was his great-great-great-great-great-grandson. How come that, it still is, even if the Torah doesn't mention that, it's a fact. Of course it's a fact. We're not denying that. What the Torah is telling us here is like, hey, do not associate, even if it's your seed, your descendant. That doesn't necessarily mean that all his traits are going to be related or associated with the good traits of the ancestor, the main ancestor. So again, it's a lesson that we have to learn here. It's an ethical lesson. It's like we must not associate ourselves with traits that are not part of us. Yeah, it could be my descendant, but that's not my trait. I'm sorry. I haven't been like that. So yeah, he might be my descendant, but his actions don't reflect my actions. We say, yeah, I'm the cause, but that effect is not part of my cause. Yeah, but it's not. God said, yeah, you're right. He acquired those qualities in a different environment called Egypt. The lowest realm in consciousness. He acquired those things from Egypt. The Midrash says that Korach stole the treasure of Pharaoh. What is the treasure of Pharaoh? The Midrash doesn't say. He stole the treasures of Pharaoh. But it doesn't say what were the treasures. So people think that money, gold, I don't know, other things. I don't know. Probably, material possessions. Maybe, some kind of documents or... I don't know. What's his treasure? Now, who's Pharaoh? We have mentioned Pharaoh many times in the book. All the commentaries on the book of Exodus are related to Pharaoh, by the way. Pharaoh represents, according to the mystic Hasidic tradition, egos, fantasies, and illusions. Ego. So later, one of the prophets quotes Pharaoh saying, "The river is mine. I made it. It's mine." So he said that he made the river. That's Pharaoh. That's ego. That wasn't anybody. I did it by my own effort, by my own things. Who put you intellect? Who gave you ideas? Who gave you the capacity to create? It's God. Therefore, it's not yours. But the ego said, but I did it. I built this car. I developed this vehicle, this spaceship, for the capacity of knowledge is given you by God. Therefore, God is putting you the knowledge. You're just the vehicle. Yeah, but I did it. So, well, if you want to believe that, I don't want to argue about this. But we in Judaism, we believe that everything that we have belongs to God. So we say that every day, yours are the greatness, the victory, the power, the kingdom, the strength. Because everything comes from good, from you, God. From you comes all wealth and power. Every power, every wealth comes from you. As King David is telling us that. We read that every morning, by the way. So we're praising God. Pesukei Besimra. Chapters of prayers, of praising God. We are acknowledging that we basically are empty vessels, ready to be filled with God's will. So the perfect empty vessel is Moses. It's like, hey, I'm here, I'm completely empty, filled myself with you. And go to Kalug and he's saying, it's pretty clean, it's all for me. Boom. And then Moses was doing exactly what God told him. Up until one moment where he said, I'm going to do it my way. And God said, in public, by the way, was Moses seen, as we mentioned before. So speak to the stone, to the rock. In front of everybody, and you will speak to the. So everybody heard that God told Moses to speak to the rock. And Moses took his staff and knocked on the rock. So the Midrash says that God told Moses, it's like, if you could have done that in private, I would have let it pass. But you did it in public. Everybody knew that you did what you wanted to do, not what I told you. It doesn't work that way. So you are not coming back. You are not coming in with them to the promised land. This is one moment, one single moment in which Moses said, I'm going to do it my way this time. So it took one time. And then look what happened. So it's like, this is not about, that's blunt. It's like, we are not the feel of the will of God, then we're nothing. We don't have the chance to have a good life. That's what it is. So what is the lesson here? You have to become God's will. We have to explore what that is. What is that He wants? That, hey, I want you to do what you want because it makes sense. God. To get to that point. How do we do that? We have to know God. We have to know what we're going to put in that vessel that is ourselves, our lives. Yeah, the same way that we put delusions, fantasies, and desires, and lust, and envy, and coveting, and greed. It's like we know what we put in this. I want to lust. I put a little lust in my emotions. I put a lust in my passion, to make me drive somewhere, do something. But we know that. Not precisely the good things to do, but we know the effect actually. It's like we're looking at, I want to get this when I get this. When I feel myself with this, I'm going to get this. I know I will. But then what about if we take a little time and think, it's like what God wants? Actually, I'm His creature. He created me. I come from Him. What is this for? What is this all about? And then we ask God. And God tells us, you know what? Just put goodness on it. Just try to make goodness the cause, and goodness will be the effect. I warranty you. I created the world, put it in motion that way. That's what He's asking us. So we have to fill ourselves with goodness. It's like a common bond with Him, by the way. Now we have to know what goodness is, obviously. Because it's going to be the goodness of the Nazis, during the war. They believe in the trials of Nuremberg. We have been said that many times. They testified. We thought that we were doing the right thing. We thought that we were the good guys. They had the nerve to say that, to have said that. It's like, excuse me? It's like killing 6 million Jews that didn't do anything to you, stealing everything they had, which, by the way, they haven't given back. Just killing millions of peasants in Russia, civilians, people working in the fields. You just came and killed them all. Millions of them. It's like, for what kind of goodness is that? And still we have ideologies here that pray the same garbage. We see that every day. It's like, and they say that they're doing the right thing. This is good what we're doing. Stoning people, raping boys and girls underage. Is that right? Oh, then the West culture say, oh, that's cultural diversity. Excuse me? Cultural diversity. And they want to impose their cultural diversity on us. And we're going to allow that too? This is literally playing with fire when we play around with negative things. So we have to be aware what are the things that we put in our consciousness. See, we see the lesson every day. We just open the paper, the newspaper, we'll see what we put in our consciousness. Really? You should read the paper, what this government did, what these people did, who those guys did. It's like what these people are doing with consciousness, human consciousness. What direction? What is the objective? What is the goal? What is the purpose of what they're doing? Destroying human consciousness. Corruption, exploitation. That's what we read every day. Then that's basically what is reflecting Korach's mentality. See, the Korach mentality is like, I want to do it my way. So this is an interesting commentary of one of our sages in the Torah. That he said that the rebellion of Korach rebels against Moses and Aaron because he say, hey, you guys? Why Moses had to be Moses? Why Aaron had to be the high priest? Why Moses had to be the middleman between us and God? Why not me? So he said that, Sage says, we were going to say it now. He said, this attitude of Torah was not against Moses and Aaron. It's very interesting. It's like the guy rebelled. I mean, he was basically gathering 200 people out of millions, by the way. There were not that many. He said, hey, let's go against Moses. These guys, these are not good leaders. Yeah, but they took us out of Egypt, and they say they're not good people. Korah says, I'm better than them. I should be the high priest. So they say, the Hazal, the people who comment on the Torah and translate the Torah for us, the oral Torah, they said this uprising against Moses and Aaron was not an uprising against Moses and Aaron, was an uprising against God. So that we have to pay attention to that. What really Moses and Aaron, who these people were. God chose them. Why? They were the right people. They had the right traits. They were not perfect people, but they understood goodness. They understood that there's a greater purpose. That is God's will. That is the greatest goodness of all, God. And they did the best. And they were doing the best. But then this guy comes, Korah, and says, hey, can be my ways, ego speaking. That's the stolen treasure from Pharaoh, by the way. Like he stole treasures, Pharaoh. What is the treasure of Pharaoh's ego? I'm better than you. I'm better than that guy. I'm better than those guys. I can do better than everybody here. Our Midrash, our oral tradition say that the guy indeed was a very, very wise guy. I mean, he was very intelligent. They even said that they knew more, in terms of knowledge than Moses and a lot of people. The guy was really kind of knowledgeable guy, but he lacked the main quality that God wants from each one of us in order for him to be with us and to share the same vessel with us. It's humbleness. To accept God's will. That's humbleness. It's like, I accept God's will, not mine. I'm his creature. He created me. I must do what he tells me to do. This guy said, Korah said, no, it's not that way. Then how did he die? This is very interesting. He said that the earth swallowed him. So mystic Hasidic sages is what does that mean? It's like, it's literally, it said that the earth opened the mouth and swallowed him, like a monster kind of thing. So what is the earth in this case? This is the material thing called earth, the soil, the ground in which we step on. So what is that? It's gravity. It's like we have this contact, with the earth, the planet, like the materiality. It's like the moment we put our bare foot on the soil, the earth, the ground, we feel that there's something material there. Something that there's no life there. It's like the materiality, the density, the thing that have no spiritual content whatsoever. It's just matter. Completely matter. That was the kind of consciousness that this guy had, Korach. So his materialistic approach to everything he knew, no matter how big it was, how important this knowledge was oriented to the materiality, to what is material. And that materiality was as dense as the earth, the matter. And then it became one. It's like one swallow. It belongs to. It's like you're materialistic, you're material like me, come with me, be part of me. And also the Midrash says, this is very interesting, that in the same way that his body, this materiality in his consciousness was swallowed by the earth, the goodness of his soul was swallowed also by the Spirit, by God. It's like his soul was so important. The soul was the vehicle for this person to acquire everything he acquired, all the knowledge that he acquired. So it was a good soul. A soul that was capable of this big knowledge, but was not able to use that knowledge under the guidance of God. It's like the soul came to God. So it's like everything that was evil on him, like negative, like dense, like squared, so to speak, like material, went to the material, where it belonged. So he lost his soul, basically. So we have to understand the soul as the sources of our goodness. So the final commentary that we want to make is like, let's become our soul. Let's make our soul and us one. Like one accord. It's like when we do something, we know that it's our soul that is taking the decision. And again, this soul is the extension of God's goodness in us. Then our goodness and God's goodness through our soul, they become one. And then we understand that we can also be able to become the humblest humankind that ever existed. And this is in this humbleness, this humankind becomes the bearers of the messianic consciousness of the final redemption, of the new phase in consciousness that God wants for us, that He promised us ever since we left Egypt. This promised land again is the messianic consciousness that we have to build up by removing everything that doesn't belong to this land, that doesn't belong to this goodness. So, with this we finish our commentary on Parshat Korach. Many things that happen in this portion, but of course we focus on one aspect that we hope that flew through from one consciousness to the other in order to achieve this connection, this closeness to the goodness of God that is our common bond with Him. So have a blessed, abundantly blessed week. Shabbat Shalom, and until next week.